Welcome everyone to Boulder City Council. Appreciate everybody being here. And Madam City Clerk, having called the meeting to order, confirmation of posting and roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. The agenda was posted in accordance with Nevada open meeting law and all members are present.
Thank you. We will now rise for the invocation by Pastor Ed Bruning, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all may rise.
Almighty God, creator of life and author of love, we are gathered here at a time when we are reminded that you have called upon us to be supportive of and to pray for all civil authorities, and at a time as well when our nation is choosing whether to retain or to replace some of those authorities. To do this, Lord, we need to have your guidance. We live in a difficult world, and there are all sorts of things that are surrounding us. Some are very worrisome, some should be, and some will be. Some you've already taken care of, and we have yet to find out. Because we trust in you, Lord, we know that we are safe. We also know that we are responsible. So bless us, Lord, tonight, and in the decisions of our minds. Bless us in our review of facts and reasons. Bless us, Lord, in supporting and praying for our civil authorities. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Can you join us with the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor Ed Bruning of Our Savior Lutheran Church. Thank you for being here with us. I don't think there are any public announcements, and in which case we will open public comment that is during this portion of the agenda. It's related to anything that's on the agenda for this public comment, limited, each person limited to 3 months, close to 3 months it seems like, 3 minutes to speak on a specific agenda item. So please come forward if you're here. And do we have anyone on the phone line yet? All right. This would be the time to come forward, state your name, introduce yourself, and take all of the 3 minutes.
I'm Jason Howard. I'm a Boulder City resident of since 2012, and I'm addressing the item number 5 on the City Council agenda, just regarding the presentation of the swimming pool recreational project. It's my hope that my comments tonight are heard by those in attendance and throughout Boulder City. We have an opportunity as Boulder City residents on November 5th to vote to support our expenditures of funds from our capital improvement funds to help get our pool funded sooner than later on the pool project. For many years, this council, including previous administrations, have addressed the need to update and replace the city pool facility that currently is more than 14 years past its life expectancy. The city and staff have expended tremendous amounts of work to keep this facility operational for us as residents to enjoy swimming and other activities year-round. If it wasn't for their ingenuity, we may have had this building shuttered many years prior, and appreciate all the time and attention they've put to this. I would ask all the residents of Boulder City to help support the ballot measure to appropriate the capital improvement funds we already have in place, waiting to be approved, to ensure we can start sooner on this project and not delay anymore. Because every time we delay, the project costs seem to escalate with our market conditions. The city and staff have been very clear on what the program would entail based on the ad hoc pool committee recommendations and SCA design programming done to this time. In my career and profession, I've had the opportunity to manage and design construction of more than $5 billion worth of work in the Clark County, Henderson, and City of Las Vegas areas, and including managing the construction of the Allegiant Stadium. I've had to deliver bad news that projects with budgets set many years prior were over budget and had taken longer to get to construction than originally planned, and as such didn't take into account the future state of the market or escalation in prices of construction. Just like my Big Mac hamburger costs a lot more, as do my groceries, the cost of construction has gone up exponentially over the last few years, and due to many factors that are beyond our control. In my review of the project budget and funding plan, I can see that the city's been very prudent in protecting our residents from future escalation costs and have a plan to get this project funded and into design and construction faster with this ballot measure rather than later, which could cost even more. They have found a path to do this without increasing taxes or other burdens being placed on our residents, and I commend them in planning and execution to date. I'd again ask our Boulder City residents to help us approve this ballot measure so that we can get our pool built and get our kids and our family and friends enjoying such an awesome facility that's going to come. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Anyone else here in the chambers like to come forward? Anyone on the phone line? Go ahead.
Public comment, go ahead.
Good evening. For the record, Fred Volz. While the police chief's activity report in agenda item 4 doesn't provide considerable detail about the city animal shelter's activities, the startling statistic revealed shows that from 2022 to 2023, reported animal problems within city limits increased by a significant 46.8%. Such a large increase amidst a declining human population suggests reform. The staff report for agenda item number 5 and statistics presented at yesterday's commission meeting paint a troubling portrait of the proposed pool complex's trajectory. Only an average of 139 people a day used the existing pools during July 2024 and 117 in August 2024. With this type of light usage out of a population of 14,800, it is hard to justify spending what will grow with inflation and delays to plus $50 million on a new pool complex, or $3,378 per Boulderite. Consultant SCA's 2023 project cost guesstimates are not the same as a contractor committing to building this complex and are now over a year out of date. With a number of conditional statements in the director's report, it is clear Boulder City continues to chase funding for this complex. Except for the city's piece of SNWA infrastructure, we have no municipal debt, nor should we incur any for a pool. The city's longstanding approach has been to have all the money available before starting any capital projects. Boulder City is far from that threshold at a little over $16 million presently. Given light demand for municipal swimming services, the new pool project should be scaled back to no more than $10 million in total project costs. Even that is an enormous amount for a small community with limited swimming needs. Any unused funds need redirection to the huge backlog of desired but unfunded city capital projects benefiting a much larger portion of the population. Throwing away a 42-year-old pool should give cause to pause. Multiple communities around the country have pools far older, with the oldest in Boston, Massachusetts, dating from 1912. When the SCA consultant publicly claimed municipal pools only have a 40-year useful life, she did zero research. Regular maintenance extends pool longevity. Successive elected and appointed Boulder City officials since the 1980s failed to perform essential maintenance, leading to an unrepairable pool. What safeguards will be implemented to ensure that any new swimming facility built will receive sufficient maintenance so it lasts far longer than 4 decades? The public is looking for constructive answers to these and other pool-related issues. I would ask that these comments be added to the record verbatim. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to be on the phone line? 702-589-9629. Anyone else here in chambers like to come forward and speak on any matter on the agenda today? Anyone else on the phone line? All right. I will close public comment and go to approval of the regular agenda.
Move to approve the regular agenda. I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those, any discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passed unanimously. And then approval of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. And any discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda has been approved, moving us to the regular agenda, number 4, presentation by our police chief, Tim Shea.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's time for our annual report on activity for the police department and a few key factors from some of my staff. Unlike some of the other presentations, you'll have Deputy Chief Aaron. Beforehand we started, we realized we have 2 Aarons from Alaska. So Aaron Johnson will be talking about areas under his concern and control. Lieutenant Thomas Healing will be talking about operations. Lieutenant Vinny Albowitz will be focusing on the electric vehicle test program. And Ruby Perkins can't be this evening, so Erin Thomas will be here. She is one of our lead dispatchers to talk about those areas. So hopefully I will not hold this up. And the stats we're going to see are all 2023 stats. This is how the department's organized. We're organized into 3 divisions, and each one is commanded by a lieutenant. And we have all of our personnel in there. We have 30 full-time commissioned personnel. Out of that, 73% of our commissioned personnel are in uniform and in the field. That's a very high number. That's, in many agencies, it's 50% or less. So most of our people are in the field doing operational things. And currently, we have no vacancies in any of our full-time positions for the first time in a long time. So these stats here, these are we get from the Department of Justice. Prior to last year, it was all UCR, Uniform Code, Uniform Crime Reporting, that was established in the 30s. They went to IBR, Incident-Based Reporting. When that happened, a whole bunch of parameters changed. And those parameters started inflating numbers. So some of the numbers went up, but the numbers that went up weren't because there was more crimes being committed. It's because they're collecting more data on areas they didn't collect them before. So if you had an event that had multiple crimes occurring, only one event was captured. Now every single one is captured as a separate one. So for us, I'd run this back as far as I have data for. So this, you can see this is almost 20 years worth of data. The blue went down or stayed the same from the year previous. The red went up. And you can see for the most part, we're either staying pretty close to where we have been or less. We say, well, my gosh, you know, we had 32 burglaries. Had 147 of them in 2004. So we're at a quarter of the burglaries we used to have. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I won't go into that all right now, but it's a nationwide thing that's going on when it comes to that. So the other thing is we do a lot more than just this. We have about roughly 200 or so event codes that we do for that all the events we do. So I thought people would like to see some of the other things we do besides just the UCR stats. So these show some of the things that people are kind of interested in or that we have going on at about the 18,000 events that we handle in a year. Some are called into us and some are on view. So that's where officers do things. So you'll see things in here like, well, do our officers get out once in a while and do the old foot patrols? Yeah, they do. And here's how many they do, and we actually did more last year than the year before. On the phone, you noticed the animal problems, bites, etc. They are up significantly, up 953 from 649 the year before. The reason for that, I think, is heightened awareness, and people have a tendency to call us about things that they weren't calling us on before. It's not that people are out there doing more improper activities. I think people are calling us more and making us aware more because this has been publicized more on animals. I think people are more aware of things like that. So this is, I don't know if you have any questions about any of those. If you notice, our vagrancy, panhandling, and bagging have been going up every year for the past 4 years. We were asked about death investigations. Those are non-criminal death investigations. Those are things for natural causes. We could call them. Abuse and exploitation of elderly has gone down. That's a statewide thing.
I was just wondering, are the numbers on this side then in black?
Black is last year.
Last year?
Red
Okay.
went up this, 23.
Yeah.
Blue went down or
Okay.
stayed the same.
Just making sure I was looking at it.
Yeah, sorry.
No
Can I ask a question there? The child abuse and neglect has gone up. Why do you think that is in Boulder City? That's kind of alarming.
Well, those are cyclic. Sometimes you might have people reporting things before they wouldn't. You may have some people that have moved in or their kids have gotten to an age where they've done things that they thought were proper, and they find out, they go to school, and the school calls us and reports that something's happened. In other words, when they were a kid, my parents swatted me. Well, you swatted your kid, now they have a bruise, and the school will call us on it. So it's things like that. I don't think there's any epidemic of child abuse going on. I think it's the schools are more in tune to reporting things. The kids are more in tune to saying something, and I think that's kind of where it really goes. I don't know of any really severe cases. We had a couple that were pretty severe, one that actually ended up in a homicide, but that was a year before. So that would be my best estimate of why you're seeing this.
Thank you.
I think heightened awareness and better reporting.
Chief, do those go through Child Protective Services or you first?
Excuse me?
From the school, do they go to Child Protective Services first, or do they come and get reported to you first?
I think they get reported to us first sometimes. Sometimes they could go the other way, but the school is required to report, so we get reports directly on times. If, depending on the age, sometimes it could even go right to our school resource officer at the school. So, but frequently we get called. Sometimes we do get referrals from them, so. And Lieutenant Healing, who's responsible for this, if you want to, he'll have much better information on that than I have. He deals with it firsthand.
One more question. I see sex crimes and kidnapping, abduction are up from previous year. I see sex crimes, it says adult. Is there anything regarding our children?
No, sex crimes, this is kind of a large area that they've thrown. It's crimes that are reported that could be sexual in nature. The difference between, these are not convictions or anything like this. These are crimes that are reported to us. We could get there and find out it is not. So these are what reported to us, but they're not the final disposition. So unlike the UCR stats, well, even the UCR stats, we get reported burglary. By the time it goes through the court system, it could end up being a theft. But these are the crimes that are reported to us. So when the uniform crime report comes out, it was the crimes reported to police, not the final disposition. These are events reported to us, but not the final disposition.
Okay.
This is where we kind of fall in with everybody else. The violent crime was up from 10 to 26 and 23. Aggravated assault in the state actually went down 5%. We went up a little bit. I think it's better capturing of data under the IBR system. Our violent crime arrests were up significantly, though. We made much more arrests for violent crimes. We're up actually 500% on the arrests. Property crime was down 15%. The state went up 7%. Clark County went up 9%. Auto theft was down 15%. The state went up 39%. Clark County's up 46%. So they're kind of trade-offs. You know, some of ours go up, go down. Some of theirs goes up, goes down. And because our numbers are low, if you have 2 or 3 more events, it really pushes our numbers out. When you have 15,000 events, if you have 10 or 15 more, it doesn't even make a ripple on them. For us, it really makes a large deviation. Our crime clearance rate is just under 13%. The state's 11%, and Clark County is about 12%. So we're about the same as the rest of the agencies on clearing our cases. Our arrest data, 73% are male, 26% female, 80% white, 13% black, and 6% Asian. Our domestic violence was up 17%. The state was down 2%. But again, for us, if you add 4 or 5 cases, that really shoves our percentage up because our numbers are so low. Our Victim gender is 64% female. Our offender gender is 63% male on domestic violence. Our arrested gender is 61% on male and 38% on female. It's these are the agencies that are showing that we have some of the lowest crime rates in the country. Oh, and one thing our crimes against the elderly are down 15%. The state's down also, and abuse is way down, which is a good thing. So our crime rate runs around 5.5% incidents per 1,000. Other Nevada cities up at the top, like Mesquite, they're at 7.4 incidents per 1,000. Henderson, 10.2. North Las Vegas, 26.3. So you can see where we fit with our peers. Sparks is in 5th place with 26.2. But we're at the bottom of the pile there when it comes to crime. This is animal control statistics. We had 453 animals come through the shelter. 209 we could find the owners and get them back to them. 142 are adopted. We have less than a 3% euthanasia rate, which puts us far below the 90% that qualifies us for a no-kill shelter. We have six of our animals died at the hospital. We only had 36 wild animals that were captured and relocated. Almost all those are snakes. We don't capture anything else really. Might get a skunk or something, but we had 19 dog bites. Those are up, and 16 of those bites that we investigated were to humans. We, of course, don't get all the dog bite case because a lot of people don't call us. They don't. If my dog bit me at home, I wouldn't be calling someone to come and take a report. I just, clean the bite out myself. So the ones that we're getting are rarely someone's own dog biting them. It's normally someone's dog biting somebody else, or there's somebody visiting over at the house, or the dog gets out, or something like that.
Do you have like a location, say like majority of them were at the dog park or again at home?
I don't have that, but we could get that data because we have districts where all reports are taken, so we could sit down and see where they're at. And there's a couple of things we're going to start to track, whether or not these are cases of dogs running at large, and if so, where they are and where it's occurring. If it's occurring in neighborhoods, occurring in parks. I think it's something we can start tracking right away.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And see where we're going with that. So it's kind of a data point that's missing. Aaron?
Which one?
The short hair. I was going to say the Alaskan one, but that doesn't work, does it?
I feel safe around you guys to make fun of them in front of you, 'cause you'll protect me, I'm sure. Good evening, thanks for having me here today. I get the pleasure of updating you on some of the projects we got to, excuse me for a moment. You got it? Am I just going to say next? Okay, so last year I got to talk to you about our policy manual update through Lexipol. Was a new software program that we were integrating into, and more importantly, it was a program that allowed us to have kind of vetted, refereed legalese look at our policies and maintain them. So throughout the year that we've been doing this, we would hit a policy and the Lexipol rep would say, oh, we got 8 more updates since we rolled this out. Let's go ahead and look at those also. So it's kind of a neat program that their legal team will go through and do the updates for us, and then we just get to approve them and adopt them based upon our needs. So some of the updates are actually saying, hey, you may want to reconsider this strike through this line here because it actually fits best practice, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's what we want to do. So we can tailor it to Boulder City's needs, and it's been really eventful. And right now we're on schedule to roll this out to our staff January 1, right, 2025. So we're right on track from where we were supposed to be from last year. And then our RMS CAD system. So if you remember, we wanted to update or upgrade our RMS CAD system, the system that we use to manage our records and also how we dispatch our folks and our fire personnel throughout the town, animal control throughout Boulder City, into the park, and other jurisdictions that might ask for our assistance. So with that, we did a year-long study. We had multiple vendors come before us, give their presentation, hit their mark, see with it of this committee, and this committee was comprised of anybody that might be impacted by this system. So we had someone from records, we had someone from evidence, we had animal control was there, patrol was there, of course, fire representatives there. So anybody that might have be impacted from the system, because what they did not want to happen is me to pick it out because it was easiest for me to use. I don't use it. I'm not an end user. Why would I pick this thing out? So the chief and I said, we don't want to have a stake in this game. All we want to do is make sure you guys are getting what you need. And so what we ended up with is the program that we currently have. So Spillman, which if you asked me a year ago, are we going to be with Spillman today, I would have told you, no way would we be with this program. But what we found out is Spillman is a good product if we own it. We don't own the current system we have. We've been using the state system. We bought into the state system many years ago. So anytime we try to do a program change with this system, we would have to go through the state. And the state would reply, oh, we can't do that because that's going to negatively impact Ely. Well, I'm not really concerned about how Ely is managing their records. I really want to manage records well here in Boulder City. So what we did is, with IT involved, we are going to have our own server system that's going to be maintained here in Boulder City. We will be a standalone with Spillman Flex. That's going to be our new system. And we are having a go-live date of December 10th, 11th, and 12th. We're going to roll this out to our folks. And why it's only the 3 days long is because our folks already know this system. It should be a very, very, very easy transition to go into. And it was kind of interesting with the conversation we had with their folks was, well, we have never, ever done a Spillman to Spillman conversion. They have never experienced this for taking our information out of the state's hand and putting it into our hands. They said, we've never done this before. We got to build new patches and stuff. And so what was supposed to happen in August, we were supposed to be done with this, is now pushed all the way back until December because they're trying to figure out their own pathway to get this accomplished. To me, it should seem very easy, but they're talking in a language that I don't understand, so I just nod my head and, yes, that sounds good. Okay, as long as we're done before 2025, that seems reasonable to us. So happy to report that those two projects that we had going on, we are moving forward and doing very, very well with it. Next, thank you. So what do I get to talk about today is some new projects, right? So I'm a projects guy. I like to get some things going and start talking about some things. And with our new strategic plan, there's one component on it that talked about accreditation. And it's been put into our strategic plan for us to sit there and evaluate if accreditation process for the police department is feasible. So a discussion with the chief and the rest of his command staff, is this a feasible program for us to do? And we all agree, not only is it feasible, it's probably necessary. We watch our fire department become accredited, and they're doing very, very well. We watch our finance department essentially become accredited with some of the programs they're doing with Pool Pack. Why wouldn't we have an accredited police agency? So I'm going to bump it up one here, Holly, just so we can go. Oops, sorry. You're going to do it. I'm going to leave it alone. So one of the things that we talked about is there any type of, what type of accreditation is out there? A lot of states have their own accreditation program, and it's not something that is available for us in Nevada. So what we would have to do is we would have to go out to an outside agency that, similar to what Metro does, North Las Vegas, Henderson, other agencies inside the state of Nevada do is they go to this program here called CLIA. And it's an accreditation process, it's an accreditation organization that takes you through essentially a 5-year cycle to get all of your policies in line with what is the best national standard. It doesn't again mean that Boulder City's policy is going to look like Metro's because Metro has things that we don't have. We don't have a helicopter. If you give me a helicopter, we'll fly a helicopter, we'll get that policy added to it, but I don't think that's going to happen. So with that, our accreditations are going to be a little bit different because our policies are a little bit different, our manuals are different. But it takes time. And so if we really want to do this, this is something that we want to take, let you know that it's something that we feel we can do, it's something that we feel we need to do, but it's going to take time and energy to do it. So that's the accreditation process. We look forward to talking more and have more discussion with city management about how we're going to fulfill this step of our strategic plan. All right, we'll go back one, Holly. The next thing is a new police facility. So I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the little building across the street there is just about 100 years old. All right, so if you look at the picture in the upper left there, that is the police department. And if you look at the automobiles in that police department, that's a 1930s photo of our building. And what was in that building at that time, boss, correct me if I'm wrong, city manager, city clerk, public works, police department. And a kindergarten? Was it kindergarten in that building at the time? I think that was in this building. So in the 1930s, early 1930s, 1931, this is what was inside that police department. And we're in the downstairs portion. If you guys want to come and take a tour, have never been in there before, you'll see things in that police department that really belong in a museum and not in a police department anymore. Because what we have learned over time is that it is absolutely inadequate for a police department. And I say that with a level of confidence because in 1975, 15 years after we were incorporated, 40 years plus after the building was built, we had a study saying that we need a new police department. And it was going to go right where Buchanan and Adams was at. That's where the map was looked at, and this is what the study did. Now, this is like 10,000 square foot building at the time. The costs were $32 a square foot. That would be nice today, but that's not going to be true. But in essence, what was identified in 1975 is that our current situation is inadequate for what we're doing. It's not adequate for a police department. And this is our in-house historian, Lieutenant Albowitz, saves all these little documents, and we just go to him and say, hey, where's this study at? And he goes, you got to remember that when he joined the police department 25 years ago, he was also told that we're going to build a new police department. So we've been chasing this dream for quite some time, and then when this thing popped back up in 2019 with a second study from Stantec, is that we're in a building that is in the poor category. It's a good building, it just doesn't fit the needs of a police department. And if you look through some of the studies and some of the things that are going on right now, we really should not even be bringing prisoners to the police department to process. So we're actually in the process of working with Henderson that we go straight from arrest to Henderson City Jail because our holding facilities there are complete disarray with federal law. They just do not conform with what would be acceptable to house a prisoner in, even temporary confinement. It is also inadequate or below standards according to the International Associations of Chiefs of Police. So another agency out there, a standard, not necessarily an accreditation agency, but an agency that gives insight and finds best practices for what police departments should be doing, and they're saying this building is below standard. We're also at a building that is 16,000 square feet. Stantec in 2019 said we should be at least in a building that is 22,000 square feet. So one of the things that we're talking about, and one of the things that I just really am excited to champion over the next 10 years, because I know it's not happening tomorrow, but I will continue to bring this up to the community and things that our needs have been identified in 1975, and it has not changed since. We have been doing more with less for a very, very long time, and it's time for the city to essentially modernize our police department and do something more than just, paint the interior, do a new facelift, put some new walls up, and say this is adequate for a police department. We are running out of space drastically. We still have some ailing sewage systems. We have open sewers in there. We have water dripping from an outlet onto a floor, into a drain, going out to a sewer system. So that is what this building has been like for the 20 years I've been in it, and since 1975 also. So that is the two things that I am very, very hopeful that I get to champion for the next few years. So with that, do we have any questions? Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. So these are some of the things I'm going to cover tonight. They're not going to be in order. My notes don't exactly match up to what the chief put together here, but I'll try to start from the beginning. Narcotics. We've had some major narcotic seizures this year, and as the deputy chief was saying, our facility is no longer adequate, hasn't been adequate since the 70s. The things we're seeing, we weren't seeing in the 70s. We weren't seeing in the 30s. We've had some major narcotic seizures this year. I'll give you some total numbers, and I'm sure you'll be surprised. Methamphetamine, we've seized this year 33,000 grams. That's 72 pounds of methamphetamine. Heroin, over an ounce. It doesn't seem like a lot, but heroin's being phased out by fentanyl, which we've seized 19,000 grams. For perspective, that's 42 pounds of fentanyl. And methamphetamine, that's 73 pounds of methamphetamine we've seized this year. Boulder City's not the same place it was before. We recently executed a search warrant where we seized over 2 pounds of psilocybin mushrooms from a citizen here. Along with that, we've seized 18 total firearms with those narcotic seizures. So not only are we seeing more drugs, we're seeing more guns, which is going to equal more violence at some point. That's one of our concerns. Narcotics has become a major issue. We can't bury our heads in the sand anymore. It's becoming, yes, ma'am.
My question was, were those all residents of our community? Are they people who come into our community and get caught? Or are they just people driving through our community?
It's both. Some of these seizures have resulted from narcotics investigations that our excellent team has seized. Some have been traffic stops on the I-11. Some have just been incidentally on traffic stops unrelated. But the majority of it is passing through, yes. But a lot of it is being seized here in town. Part of the narcotics problem is stemming from Las Vegas, or Henderson, or over the hill, as we like to say. And most of our investigations that we're doing lead back over the hill. We've been working really close with the North Las Vegas High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Task Force. We've kind of formed a unique relationship with that task force. And we're hoping to maybe open some doors for future consideration of getting back into a task force. We have 3 incredible investigators right now that are out there doing the Lord's work, as I like to say. And I would love to get them back involved in a team like that where they can make a major impact and disrupt and dismantle drug trafficking organizations that are feeding our city with narcotics. And these are just some of the seizures here. You can see the photo on the right, I think, is 30 pounds of methamphetamine. The photo on the left is, I don't recall the exact numbers on that, but you can see it's pretty heavy. And the photo in the middle is a pound of methamphetamine that our narcotics investigators actually bought from a bad guy.
How many micrograms does it take to overdose on fentanyl?
Good question. Not much. I would give you a number, but I would probably be wrong.
It's less than a milligram.
So that I will tell you that the amount of fentanyl we've seized in Boulder City is enough to kill every citizen in the state of Nevada.
Right.
And that's a fraction of what they're seizing in Henderson, Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, and throughout the rest of the state.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't mind. I know we had a baby die, was it last year or the year before, for fentanyl? How many residents in Boulder City, do we have a tally of that, of how many residents in Boulder City have lost their lives with fentanyl?
We've seen a drastic reduction in overdose deaths this last year. I think we had 7 or 9 in fiscal year 23, and in 24, I think we have 1. And I don't necessarily know if it's because there's a decrease in fentanyl. In fact, I would say it's absolutely not because there's a decrease. I think anybody who would have overdosed and died on fentanyl at this point, unfortunately, has probably overdosed and died until a new generation of drug addicts grows up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got a question.
Sure.
What is fentanyl used for? I mean,
It's a
if
painkiller. It's a narcotic analgesic. It's a pharmaceutical grade painkiller, and precursors are being shipped over from China into Mexico, where it's being mixed and then trafficked up into the United States.
Okay. I was just curious because if it
It's
takes
a- It's a synthetic form of heroin.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious because if it takes so little to kill you, what are people using it for?
Just painkiller for the most part, yeah. I'll go back to, I'm going to kind of be out of order here, like I said. So if I move on to training, we've conducted some great training this year. We've had some joint training evolutions with the fire department, and continue to do our MAC-TAC and incident command training. We have a brand new defensive tactics mat room with new mats. Now we're not going to fall down and hurt ourselves when we're training. Hopefully save the city a lot of money on workers' compensation claims. And something we started to do in the last year was we push out what we call briefing trainings. So we have about a half an hour to 45 minutes before each shift where officers sit and go over the previous shift's incidents. And during that time, we also conduct training where if an issue pops up on patrol or the detectives see an issue or the command staff wants something addressed, we have a training officer that puts together a PowerPoint and has a lesson plan and will instruct each shift throughout the day on whatever those issues are. And that's really been a huge help for us. We've identified a lot of issues that we've been having and have really gotten the entire department on the same page. I'll move up to patrol under operations. So under operations, I count patrol, and patrol really is the backbone of everything we do. Everything starts with patrol for the most part. We identify our bad guys that our detectives ultimately go after. Our drug targets are developed on patrol for the most part. They answer all the calls for service. As the chief was showing you all the stats in his slides, that's all patrol. They do the majority of that work, and they've been doing a really great job. A few of the highlights, we had a jackpot device, which is kind of a card skimmer placed onto the credit union's ATMs on the corner of Nevada Way and Yucca. And one of our patrol officers was able to issue some search warrants and do some subpoenas. He reached out to the Fusion Center in Las Vegas and was able to identify the suspects, which are non-citizens. They're wanted in several states for the same thing. Las Vegas Metro wants them, so it's a great case. That turned out to be something really good. And we were able to prove through some photo identification who they are and identify them that way. I'm sure you heard recently we had a vehicle burglary down off of Buchanan in the Commons area. That was also a stolen vehicle. And on top of that, we had a vehicle pursuit from Arizona where somebody stole an RV and decided to run into Boulder City. We're seeing a lot more people fleeing from the police department on traffic stops. I myself was involved in one last week, a week and a half ago, where a person committed a crime in Arizona. Arizona authorities called us to assist. We located the vehicle, and ultimately the person fled from us. Thankfully, they stopped, and we were able to take him into custody. But the proclivity of people now to run from the police is only increasing, and it's we have to identify some ways to stop it. There are several ways, but it's, again, as everything, it's going to cost money. Some of the new technology out there is really promising, so maybe next year when I come in front of you again, I'll have some ideas on how we can slow these things down and stop them. Our detective, sir? Chief Shea does not like helicopters. Our Detective Bureau is also under operations. The Detective Bureau is doing great work. We recently solved a homicide that went back to 2021. The detective in that case just received an award yesterday for that case. He did a really good job on that, really dedicated himself to that. We've had major frauds, some Ponzi schemes, a lot of child abuse, and some swatting calls that we've also seen an increase in. Oh, yeah, I'm almost done. I'm almost done, I promise. Yes, ma'am.
So you just said we have child abuse, but Chief said we didn't have child abuse. So
It's always there. The numbers fluctuate,
Okay.
but it's always there. And it's always a hot topic, so it's something I wanted to highlight. I'm not saying it's increased. It's just always there, and it's something that I like to keep at the forefront of everybody's mind because
So what would you say the percentage of child abuse are you seeing? How many cases? Is it going up or is it going, well, you showed that was going up. Is it?
without looking at the stats, I would say it's relatively steady. As the chief pointed out earlier, a minor variation in our numbers makes the percentages look like they're off the charts. So it could be a few down or it could be a few up. Generally looking, as the Detective Bureau Commander, I would say that it's generally a pretty steady. Whether it goes up a few or goes down a few, the percentages are kind of misleading.
I just hate to think of any child being abused.
And that's why I mention it.
Awful. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Last, I'll go into recruiting. We recently opened up lateral applications for officers. Even though we don't have any vacancies, we always like to keep an eligibility list. So if somebody does retire or resign or, God forbid, gets terminated or decide they don't want to work for us anymore, we have a list we can just pluck. Backgrounds are done. We get them in there as quickly as possible. We had somebody that recently left us, and within a week, we had a replacement for that person, which was great. It's fantastic. It keeps us at full staffing. This time, we only had 8 applicants, and it's kind of concerning because we're competing with agencies that are throwing large numbers around. Our fear at this point is that we might have an erosion of our ability to attract the best and brightest candidates from throughout the valley and the state and in other regions. In the next year, 8 officers will be eligible to retire. In the next 5 years, an additional 9 officers will be eligible to retire. That's 17 of our 39 officers in the next 5 years can retire. That's almost half of our department. If you look at the life of a police officer, it's generally 20 to 25 years. In the next 5 years, we could lose half. So in a fifth of that time, we could lose half of our department to retirement. So we've got to start thinking for the future about how we're going to attract the best applicants. And just for your information, some of the things we're competing against are some hiring bonuses, $40,000 from North Las Vegas as a lateral. That includes $5,000 in relocation assistance to put a down payment on a house or move your family across the country or from another city, and $5,000 for bonuses for veterans. We don't have an issue right now. We're not in a crisis. These are just things I'd like to plant the seed in your mind now. When we do have a crisis, we're well ahead of it. And that is all I have for tonight. Questions?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, Council, thank you for having me here tonight. And I would just like, before I start, with something near and dear to my heart, I wanted to answer Councilwoman Booth. I think she had a question in reference to why the uptick in some of the stuff that we saw reported with children. Being in charge of the school resource officer, I know one of the things that we did notice was there's a lot more technology to report things. Some of the things that we see coming in are from other children that might see something on Facebook or whatever, and when we do an investigation, it turns out not necessarily to be true, but we're still obligated to go do that stuff. So that's where some of this is coming in, and that's with the increased technology. That's probably the reason why we're seeing an uptick in this stuff, including with the school having a reporting line now and some other things. So I just wanted to get back to you before I start with that. So when I was asked to come here tonight and give a briefing on something, I wanted to talk about our electric vehicle program. I equate this to going back at one point in time, law enforcement here in the state of Nevada all rode horseback. We didn't have cars. And at some point there was somebody that had to say, hey, we got to try these cars, right? So now we're at another stage in the juncture where we're looking at different technology in cars. So, and forgive me, because I know my boss did say historian, I think, and not historic, and I have not been here since 1975. But I apologize. I only play a young person in my head and not one in real life any longer. So I wanted to talk to you about our electric vehicle program. We're actually running 2 different vehicle programs at the same time, believe it or not. The first one was done in fiscal year 23 with ARPA funds. So I wanted to point out that the city did not put funds out for these vehicles. This was done through ARPA. And then the second second program we're running was in fiscal year '24 through a Burn JAG federal grant. So the ARPA vehicles, we ended up buying with the money 5 vehicles. There was 1 Ford Mach-E, 4 Teslas, and out of the 4 Teslas, 2 were Model Ys and 2 were Model 3s. The federal grant was a $400,000 grant, and the rules for the grant were we could buy vehicles or we could use it for infrastructure. So out of the federal grant money, we purchased 4 vehicles, 2 Mach-Es, 1 Ford Lightning, and 1 Tesla Model 3. In all, we have 9 vehicles going with 2 different programs. The ARPA-funded vehicles, the rules for that were when we got into that program, and I want to point out we tread it very carefully because we weren't sure how these were going to work out for us. Taxpayer dollars are at stake here, right? We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So we started off very slowly with the ARPA money, and we made sure that certain things were met before we started outfitting these cars. So even though we kind of tread it lightly, we were off to a slow start. So with the federal grant money, so the ARPA money rather, and the vehicles for the ARPA money, the end result was as once the police department was done trying them, they were supposed to be made available to other city departments to see if they would work for other uses, right? So as we approach where we're at with these 2 different programs, at some point in the near future, we're probably going to be looking to push some of these vehicles out to other city departments to let them try them to see if they work for us, for the city in whole. The federal grant money, though, is a little bit different. So that's tied to the police department. And with those vehicles, it was tied to response times, officers having reliable vehicles to respond for calls, and like I said before, money for infrastructure. So today, we have 2 fully outfitted frontline vehicles. One's the Ford Mach-E in patrol, and then another one is a Tesla Model Y in traffic. 7 other vehicles are assigned to various assignments within admin and investigations. Now, I want to point out we're running 2 different sets of vehicles, the Teslas and the Fords. So they both have their strengths and weaknesses. For instance, with the Teslas, if we want them to do, so these vehicles didn't start off as police vehicles. They were never intended to be police vehicles. They were civilian sedans that we took and made into police vehicles. So with that, there are some things that you get as a consumer that we don't necessarily like to have as police officers. The horn honking when we lock the door or walk away from it. That is not something that the police department would want on their vehicles because it gives away our location. It could tell a suspect where we're at or we're showing up. It could draw attention that we don't want. So I want to point out that Tesla has been very good, and one of their strengths is that if we don't like something with the programming, they have been very good at trying to make changes for us and went above and beyond and went out of their way. Whereas with Fords, we have not had that. They don't tend to change anything or don't like to change anything. So some of these things we've had to find either workarounds or just live with. I do believe that as these things progress and things get better, and as they start making EVs geared towards police officers or first responders like they do, like the Ford PI SUV, for instance, they will overcome these things. But right now, this is what we're dealing with to try to make things work to see if these are viable for us. So Ford, though, like I said, they do have their own strengths. So the difference between the Fords and the Chevys, or the Fords and the Teslas is that if I were to put you in an electric vehicle and you've never been in an electric vehicle, you're likely to be overwhelmed when you sit in a Tesla. They are very technology based. Everything is done from in the center screen, windshield wipers, lights. Whereas if you get into the Ford Mach-E is more like a traditional vehicle. They have a switch on the dash. They have a shifter that's in the middle where you can reach down and shift like a regular car. It's not as far of a stretch for somebody to get into that vehicle and drive something that they're not used to. It's a little bit different, but it's not completely foreign. So I think in that regard, I think the Ford shines over the Tesla. People seem to be a little bit more comfortable in the Fords. One of the other things that we noticed is Ford has been making police vehicles for a very long time. So it looks like some of the manufacturers that we buy police equipment for, like our prisoner partitions, our radar units and stuff, there seems to be more stuff available for the Ford vehicles than there is for the Tesla. Tesla really hasn't committed to being building for police vehicles or for first responders. They've been very accommodating. I don't think they're against us using the vehicles for what we're doing, but they haven't really committed like Ford has. So with everything, there's pluses and minuses, and by no way is this list meant to be inclusive. I just wanted to give you guys a highlight about what some of the stuff was that we found. Some of the pluses, and it's probably to no one's surprise, the EV vehicles don't typically require any type of service. To date, none of our EVs has spent any time at our city mechanic shop. If anything, we've replaced a couple tires, we've ran over some stuff in the roadway, but for all in all, we haven't really had to have them over at the mechanics for anything. I can't say that for the brand new PI SUVs. They require oil changes, they require services, and for anybody that knows anything about being a first responder, that's our office, right? And it's a big inconvenience when the officer has to move out of their office into a extra patrol car while their office is being serviced, so to speak. It's displacement, and it's just not good, and often if we do have to run it somewhere, like if it's a warranty work item, we have to have two officers or two people from the police department go down and drop it off, because it takes one to drive the vehicle down there and it takes another person to pick them up and bring them back. So we haven't had any manpower used to run these vehicles anywhere. One of the other things that they shine in is many fixes can be done remotely through vehicle updates. There were some recalls on the Teslas. Tesla fixed them just like that through a vehicle recall, right over an over-the-air update. Vehicle didn't have to go anywhere, and the officer wasn't out anything or out of his office for any amount of time. Some of the other things is they are very quick, so they allow us to respond. So they're like that vehicle that's used for traffic. I mean, that vehicle could sit on the shoulder of the road and more so than a gas-powered vehicle, catch up to a speeder very quickly and shorter distances than any of the gas-powered vehicles that we have could. So it shines in that area. One of the other things it does is the vehicle could sit out and power up all of our electronics in the vehicle all day long without any type of motor running. It could just sit there with the battery and it just runs and powers our equipment, and it doesn't cause any issues with that. And one of the other things is, and it seems like a no-brainer, but electricity is far cheaper than gas. And being that we're Boulder City and we have our solar and Hoover Dam and our own utility, what it takes to power these vehicles and get us around is far cheaper for the city to use electricity than it is to purchase gas. Now, some of the minuses. So like I had mentioned before, these vehicles were off-the-lot sedans, basically. They were made for citizens. They weren't made for us. As you look right now, I'm wearing a gun belt. So as I get into these cars, the PI SUV was made specifically for police officers. So the seat is made so I can get in and out with this gun belt on. The Teslas and the Mach-E's, they don't have that yet. I believe they're going to get there at some point, but we're just not there with those yet. One of the other things that is that this whole program, we're still unsure if it's going to work for us or not. So to make sure we have the proper equipment, we have to keep a gas-powered vehicle in reserve for everybody who's issued an electric vehicle in case they don't work and we have to get into a gas-powered vehicle. Batteries. Batteries are concerned with these vehicles. We have no idea what's going to happen with these batteries. As you might have recently seen on the news, there was a car accident that involved a couple people where they hit a house and then the car caught fire. So it's not these cars in general, it's the batteries themselves. We have lithium-ion batteries in all kinds of devices. Probably the cell phone in my pocket right now has one. And when they hit air and they go on fire, batteries are almost impossible to put out. Any fireman, they'd be more qualified to tell you what I could, how hard these are to put out. So I don't think it's necessarily the vehicle itself, but it's the batteries that are inside. That could be a possible concern. But I can tell you this, I've been here since 1995, and I don't recall ever going out to an electric vehicle fire in the city of Boulder City. I will tell you, I've been on plenty of them that have been gas-powered vehicles. So, I don't think that's really a concern. But it's always something in the back of our mind, and when we see something like this, we always follow up to make sure it's not something that we're doing, or if it is something that we need to be aware of, we're taking precautions. We want this program to succeed. Weather can affect battery life and mileage. So as we saw this year, there was some of the hottest weather on record for the state of Nevada. We saw some drastic changes in what mileage was available with these vehicles. One of the things we didn't have was a way to rapidly charge these. We've been trying to make things work. Like I mentioned before, we started off slowly and tried to be responsible stewards of taxpayer money to try to make sure we weren't overspending or we were doing everything correctly. I would like to point out, and I would like to make sure I give props to our Public Works Department and our Utilities Director, because with that money that we had for infrastructure, we've been working with them for months, and we're finally very close to, having it to fruition, some real infrastructure for these electric vehicle programs on the side of the police department out there. There's going to be one supercharger and one, well, I can't say supercharger, that's a Tesla term, but there's going to be one high-speed charger, a DC charger, and one, I think there's 6 different level 2 chargers up to 80 amps, which should charge the Ford Lightnings pretty quickly. So that's going to be a game changer in our mind, because one of the things we've really been struggling with is to make sure that we could get these things, powered up quickly if we need to. And unfortunately, I wish I had some documentation or some data for you tonight, but they're not going to be turned on until Thursday. So it'll be next year before I'm able to tell you, how well we do. I'm sorry, but they are going to come Thursday. We're going to have them come on, and I think it's going to be a game changer for us. It's going to address some of the current concerns. But I will tell you, one of the other concerns we've had is, for instance, we noticed that the weather does affect charging of these cars. We've been trying to make it work behind the station with some covered parking. We did have some battery chargers that were outside of the covered parking, and when it was hot out, we noticed that the vehicles either would reduce in charging or wouldn't charge at all. So my concern is that we're going to have this infrastructure, and keep in mind, there's only so many places this high voltage could go and where we could put this stuff. So where it is along the police department, my concern is we're going to be out in the direct sunlight and weather. So I don't know how that's going to affect charging, even with these better chargers. So at some point, if we're really serious about doing this and we really want this to succeed, we may have to look at some covered parking out there to make this work. So time will tell. We'll be back next year and we'll give another update and let you know how we're doing. But I did want to point out that issue. Lastly, I want to close in saying I think we're at about 80% right now for these working for frontline operations. I think for outside of frontline operations, I think they're fine. We're at 80%. I would like to see 100% because I think this is an opportunity for us to lead the way on something, just like somebody had to do way back in the day to give up their horse and go with a gas-powered vehicle. And I don't think there's no reason why it shouldn't be Boulder City. I think we should be leading everything. I also believe that we will get there at some point. I just don't know when. But I had a wise person once tell me that their father was a self-made man, and he said, the person that's saying that can't be done will soon be drowned out by the person who says it can be done and this is how we're going to do it. I want that to be us. So that's where I'm closing with. I would like to also extend an invitation with the boss's permission that if you want to learn more about these vehicles, I would love to have you guys come out. Whatever we're allowed to do, one by one or whatever, and set up a day maybe out at our EVOC track and let you take a look at them, explain a little bit more. There's just no way I can go over everything in just a couple minutes, and I really would like you guys to know more because I really want your support. Yes, ma'am.
I do have a question for you. You said you need one gas car backup for every EV car, just in case. So if we did lead the way and we converted to the largest EV, would we have to have a gas car for
No, I think it's
single
right now why we're still trying to determine if these are going to work for us. We already know that, so if I were to say to you, hey, look, your police officers here in town can only do 80% of the job, that wouldn't make you feel really warm and cozy inside, right? But we could do 100% of the job with a gas-powered vehicle. I don't believe we should be giving up gas-powered vehicles until we're at that 100%, when we know these are actually going to work. So right now we're in the stages of trying to determine if these work for us or not, and that's the reason why we have to hold those in reserve, because at some point in time, if we determine, hey, these are just never going to work, or we're just not quite there yet, everything is going to change. So for instance, like I've mentioned, the seats, right? The seats are going to change in these cars. Maybe there's a piece of equipment in there that now there wasn't something that was made for these vehicles that we could purchase, and now it changes something. Now maybe we go from 80% to 85%. I would like to see us try to explore every avenue before we make a decision whether these are really good or bad for us.
Does
Yes.
Tesla have any interest at all in say, the police market, so that they might do some kind of accommodations in their regular cars, say maybe different seats, so you could get in and out. Do they have any desire to enter this market with modifications that would come specifically to you?
I haven't heard anything like that. I do know that they are working with some police departments to try to get the operating system. So the way it's been explained to me is that Tesla has, it's like Apple. Apple has their own operating system. There's Microsoft, well, they have their own as well. And they've been working with the police department to try to get the cameras on the outside of the car to read license plates through and change some of their software and stuff. So I do believe that they have an interest of working with first responders and stuff. To what degree, I'm not sure. I do know that the outside manufacturers, like for instance, in the Mach-E, one Mach-E, we didn't, when we initially started this, we were trying to tread lightly. One of the very first Mach-Es, we didn't change out the center console. It's a civilian console in the car, so it would be the same one if you went and bought a Mach-E you would have in your car. We knew that didn't work, but when the time that the federal grant money showed up, there was actually an aftermarket person making those consoles for police vehicles, and that's what's in the new vehicle. And it's a world of difference, and that may have taken us from, say, that 80 or from 75% to that 80% to make this work. So I think things are going to continue to progress. I think things are going to continue going in that way. You're already seeing some of these electric vehicles getting more range. So I think that we're going to continue to see improvements. How long it takes, it would really be up to people outside of our realm. But I am hopeful that at some point we're going to see them. I was at a conference recently. I was told there are people already working in back rooms that the police officer will never even see the outside through a windshield. They'll be looking at a television screen. The car will be driving itself to the call. You'll be able to launch drones from the vehicle itself to get an advance notice. And I believe it. I don't know how far along they are with that, and I don't know how long it's going to take and whether I'll see it in my lifetime.
Maybe we should hold off then.
But I believe...
Definitely don't need a helicopter.
I believe there are things that are coming that are going to surprise everybody, so... Yes,
Okay, so you would say we don't need to buy more electric vehicles until we know that these are working for us?
I would say, from the police department's standpoint, keep in mind we haven't had these other vehicles go out to any other departments at this point. I think we have enough to make our own decisions at this point, and I think as we continue to work in that direction, we'll continue to progress. The rest of the city departments are going to have to take their turn and decide. I would like you guys to keep an open mind to having more, but the jury is still out, so to speak.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Speaking of taking turns, I think we're going to let someone else take their turn.
I promised I wouldn't take too much of your time. Thank you very much. And again, my offer stands. If I could have you guys come out and take a look, I'd be glad to do so. Just let us know, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Esther.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Erin Thomas. I'm one of the lead dispatchers of the Police and Fire Department. Ruby couldn't be here today, so I'm going over some stuff. I would like to begin with the update on our communication center and our staff. With your support, 2 new positions have been approved. Looks like one's going to be starting at the beginning of the year, January, and then another a few months later. So we've started that process. It'll be a positive move forward in alleviating our staffing needs. Presently, we have 7 full-time dispatchers and 1 in training. Currently, both of our day shifts are running off of single people. We have single service day shifts. Both of our graveyards have 2 dispatchers on each of them. Our most recent one just got released, and she moved to Graves 1, which is the weekend shift. They've been by themselves for 2 years now, so they finally have somebody out there for them. We've all been trying to pitch in, work some overtime on our days off, but we've had shortages for a couple years, and we're all a little worn out. We have amazing trainers. They've been working diligently to get the trainees through their programs. Like I said, we just got one through, and it's looking really good. We're looking to be full staffed here very shortly. In preparation for remodeling our dispatch center, we were able to move to the MPS station up on Katzenbach. It's been a great move for us. The staff has been amazing. They're welcoming. They're helping us get settled in. Of course, it's been an adjustment. Some of us that have never worked in big centers or big agencies have never worked in large communication centers, but everybody's starting to kind of get the hang of moving from point A to point B. So we're all pretty excited about all the changes that we've had. So for the 2023 year, the Communication Center, we answered 26,769 phone calls. Of those, 5,695 were 911 calls. The average answer time for each 911 call was 4.2 seconds. And there were 14,492 police calls for service created. There were 2,401 fire and medical calls created. That's it for our dispatch center, but I would like to spotlight some of the work our records division has been doing. We have 2 full-time law enforcement technicians and 1 part-time one. They processed 1,569 reports for the 2023 year. These reports include requests for prosecution that go to district attorneys and the city offices, accident reports, insurance companies. They fulfill public records requests, do background checks for agencies across the country for hiring purposes, and submit monthly reports to the FBI with our crime statistics. They also provide DMV services for vehicle registration through Boulder City 1 day a week. They process ex-felon and sex offender registration paperwork. For the last several years, we've participated in a program called Offender Watch that our records personnel entered into a local database. When they register with our agency, they enter it into Offender Watch for better tracking. The link is located on our police website and is available for citizens to check as well if they want to. So this is just a snapshot of what our records department does as well as what your dispatch center does. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Want to briefly sum it up?
Yes, I will be brief, believe it or not. This took a little longer than I thought, but, once a year we come before this body. Normally you don't see us at these meetings, so we thought we'd give you as broad a spectrum of what we're doing. We constitute 87 employees of the city's employees, of total employees, so we have quite a staff working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every minute of every day we're here. And I thought it was, and we're rather expensive, and I thought it was worthwhile that y'all know what we're doing. The challenges we have, of course, are going to be staffing, budget, equipment, facilities, and keeping current with what's going on. But overall, the status of that department is good. I'm very proud of the people, the men and women that work there. I think they do a great job, and that's all I had.
Any questions?
I'm just going to do a very quick and exact thank you. Since it's been going and I don't want to get them mad, just thank you to everyone, all 87 employees, for everything you do for our city. We appreciate all of you and all that hard work and the time that you spend away from your family to make sure that we can spend time with ours. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks. Sorry it went so long.
Thank you. We will move to number 5. Presentation regarding the swimming pool.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and Boulder City residents. I am Julie Calloway, your Parks and Recreation Director. Agenda item number 5 is a presentation regarding the swimming pool recreation project, to be referred to tonight as pool or new pool throughout the presentation. The goal this evening is to provide an update regarding the new pool. We will focus on the findings and recommendations from the Municipal Pool Ad Hoc Committee, along with an explanation of the conceptual design, estimate, construction costs. We will also review the financial component, highlighting the fact that taxes will not be increased, and explain that if approved, the amount not to exceed $9 million from the Capital Improvement Fund could move the project forward sooner. To provide a little background, the current pool facility is over 40 years old, beyond its useful life, and out of date with many current building standards. As with many aging structures, maintenance and repairs are often needed and costly. In September September of 2019, City Council established a municipal pool ad hoc committee to review alternatives for pool repair or replacement and advise City Council of possible alternatives, including financing options. The committee was comprised of 2 non-voting council members, Mayor McManus and Councilman Howard, and 7 appointed members from the Boulder City community. The ad hoc committee engaged with the community, received input from pool patrons, toured the Boulder City pool, listened to industry experts, and discussed several swimming pool and facility amenities. On April 13th, 2021, the Municipal Pool Ad Hoc Committee recommended City Council to move forward with the construction of a new facility for the swimming pool recreation project rather than rehabilitating the existing one, and the committee provided the council a list of recommended amenities to be considered with the new pool. Staff worked with SCA Design to provide a conceptual pool design that reflected the committee's recommendation and provided construction cost estimates for the facility. The Municipal Pool Ad Hoc Committee provided design elements to meet the needs of the many user groups of the Boulder City Pool, while also being mindful of the budgetary implications. The committee discussed that some of the elements may need to be added in phases, but their ultimate goal was to recommend features that serve the current user groups and allow for enhanced features like the ability to host competitive swim meets. With the community in mind, the top recommendations from the committee included a 25-meter by 25-yard, 10-lane pool with adequate depth for swimming competitions. The other major element was the addition of a 4-lane swimming and instructional pool for open swim, swim lessons, and classes. You can see the other recommendations on the slide, including storage space for life jackets, noodles, fins, kickboards, and other equipment, along with deck space for spectators of competitive meets and swim lessons. The committee also requested modern pool equipment, including automated chemical feed systems and updated pool filtration technology. The list highlights the committee's recommendations along with a list of elements SCA included in the conceptual design. Some of the elements are options as listed, and some elements were included but not specifically recommended by the committee, as notated on the slide. A conceptual site plan was also provided by SCA Design, reflecting a potential footprint for the new facility. The current pool location, Broadbent Park, continues to be the community's preferred location for the new pool. The committee's recommendation for a 4-lane swimming instructional programming pool is designed at the appropriate depth for swim lessons, lane walkers, open swim, and water aerobics. The pool would accommodate our youngest and oldest residents. The class for 6-month-olds and the extremely popular active senior water aerobics class would take place in this 4-lane pool. This pool would also serve as an open swim space. Additionally, this pool could be utilized during swim meets for competitors to warm up and cool down. The community was very vocal about the inability of our current pool to host swim meets. The committee's recommendation for a competitive 10-lane pool would allow for swimming competitions for our Boulder City Heat Wave swim team, Boulder City High School swim team, and even accommodate NCAA meets. The 10-lane pool would be enjoyed by many residents as well, including our daily lap swimmers. Additionally, it would be utilized for lifeguard training, deep water exercise, and possible diving board activity. The 2 pools recommended by the committee would better accommodate the user groups, with each having their own heater. The competitive swimmer prefers a cooler water temperature, and the babies and our active seniors prefer a warmer body of water for their classes. Plus, the two pools would have separate filtration systems. Unlike our current pool, where all three bodies of water circulate through one system, both pools would have their individual filtration systems. Pools would also be available for private party or specialized use rentals. As notated on the slide, the conceptual design cost estimates include additional design features like a splash pad, solar equipment, and conversion of locker room space, plus a reduction estimate for substitution of a 25-meter by 25-yard pool as recommended by the committee. The 2021 estimate cost for the conceptual design totaled just over $27 million, including construction, design, construction management, inflation, and owner's contingency percentage. The updated cost estimate in 2023 for the identical SCA conceptual design totaled $36,767,487, again including construction, design, construction management, inflation, and owner's contingency. This slide highlights the estimates and cost comparisons from 21 to 23. As you can see, the construction cost of the SCA design increased by $6 million. The design, inflation, construction management, and contingency percentages all remained the same. To update the estimated total cost in 2023 to $36,767,487 for the swimming pool recommended by the ad hoc committee. With the goal on not to increase any taxes for Boulder City residents, the Finance Department created a plan to successfully fund the swimming pool recreation project based on the updated conceptual cost estimates. The pool funding plan included support from Boulder City community. Anonymous donations for the swimming pool recreation project were received in 2019 and 2024 in the amount of $1.4 million. In 2021, Boulder City voters approved a ballot question expending $7 million from the Capital Improvement Fund for the swimming pool recreation project. The Capital Improvement Fund is funded from the proceeds of land sales and lease land payments, which currently has a cash balance of over $13.8 million and continues to grow annually at a rate of $2.8 million. In 2024, a special revenue fund was created for the purpose of saving funds for the pool project. The savings account has a current balance of over $7 million, which includes a $3.8 million previously designated amount from the extraordinary fund balance, a $1.5 million budget augmentation from fiscal year 24, and a budget approved for the fiscal year 2025 of $2 million. An additional $559,696 was also added to the fund, and it was interest earned revenue from city investing the swimming pool funds. In total, the city currently has $16,370,710 in funding for the pool. The pool funding plan also includes potential funding sources. In 2021, Boulder City voters approved a ballot question expending the proceeds from the sale of land known as Track 350 to use 90% of the proceeds to fund the swimming pool project. While the voter-approved proceeds for Track 350 are estimated to bring in approximately $19 million towards the project, Track 350 is set to be developed in 3 stages over a number of years. It could take 5 to 6 years before the city receives the full purchase price for Track 350 land sales. This is reflected in yellow on the graph. The final funding component source is a ballot question on the upcoming November 5th, 2024 general election asking voters to expend a total amount not to exceed $9 million of currently available funds within the Capital Improvement Fund to be used towards the new swimming pool. The current funds that we have for the pool, again, include the anonymous donation, the previously voted approved $7 million, and the special revenue fund and interest for a total of over $16 million. And the potential funds include Track 350 land sales and the potential amount not to exceed $9 million from the CIA Capital Improvement Fund if voters approve the 2024 ballot question. The potential funding would be $27,995,440. The Capital Improvement Fund is funded from the proceeds of land sales and leased land payments like our solar leases in the El Dorado Valley. The Capital Improvement Fund has that current cash balance of $13,800,000 and continues to grow annually at $2.8 million. However, per Boulder City Charter, use of capital improvement funds requires voter approval. If voters approve the not to exceed $9 million use of capital improvement funds, the pool project could proceed sooner and offer flexibility in the case of delays with the development of Track 350. While funds for the sale of Track 350 are estimated to bring in over $18 million for the pool project, this revenue will be received in 3 installments as Track 350 is sold and developed over several years. If voters approve the amount not to exceed $9 million during the November general election, the city would potentially have $25,370,710 in fiscal year 26 for the pool project. Additionally, should the first phase of Track 350 sell in fiscal year 26, it could potentially yield an additional $9 million for the swimming pool project fund, plus an estimated $200 in interest earned revenue, bringing the total estimate pool fund to over $34 million, potentially allowing for construction to begin in fiscal year 27. If additional second and third installments from the sale of the development of Track 350 are more than what is needed for the construction of the new pool, the excess funds will be returned to the Capital Improvement Fund, awaiting future voter approval for capital expenditures. Undoubtedly, the pool funding plan has several components. However, the plan does not change or repeal any existing laws, and it will not increase taxes for our residents. So what happens next? The staff would recommend a method of procurement for the project, create a scope of work from the Municipal Pool Ad Hoc Committee's recommendations, and prepare an advertisement to begin the project. We hope the presentation highlights the Ad Hoc Pool Committee and staff's effort to provide the Boulder City community with a multi-purpose, multi-generational new pool facility that can be enjoyed for years to come. The conceptual design, based on the recommendations from the pool committee, has not changed since 2021. Only the construction estimate increase from 2021 to 2023, much like the cost of other goods and services, the price for that has increased. The funding component for the pool outlined a strategic plan for effectively allocating resources for the swimming pool project. The primary goal of the swimming pool recreation project is to create a facility that serves as a vibrant community gathering place for Boulder City residents. The design will accommodate a range of activities that will support competitive swimming, instructional programs, recreational use, and wellness activities. The project aims to be a facility for all, offering diverse programming that meets the needs of both our youngest and oldest residents. Thank you.
Thank you. I would preface any questions that we have, recognizing that we will not take any action
That is correct.
today. We won't take any votes. We are just interested in questions that we may have. We accept the report, by the way, thank you. So if anybody have any questions or comments?
She did a great job.
I just really appreciated that we pointed out some very important things to remember. That first off, nothing has changed since the ad hoc committee recommended that we needed a new pool and not to rehabilitate the old one. And I did have a question. Was the pool that exists now built on top of a pool that existed before?
Correct. There's not many people that are still around from back in the day, but yes, that is an accurate statement.
And has that created many of our problems?
We really don't know. Just to give you a little story, we were going to be considering jackhammering up part of the pool to do a little repair, and the company came in and said, we might not want to do that. We don't really know what we're going to find when we jackhammer the bottom of that.
Okay, so we will not make that same mistake and build the third pool on top of the two prior.
That is correct.
Thank you. Okay, and also just the cost. I mean, the reality is the cost. I serve on the facilities board for Clark County School District. They built a school, and I think it was 2019, 2020, built the exact same school. It was 30 to 40% higher to build the exact same school in 24. So that's the reality that we're faced with, and I like the reality that we don't know what the next 3 years hold, and if it can increase that much in this much time, who knows what it can do, but we are doing what we need to do to provide this for the community.
Correct. Thank you.
Other comments? Thank you, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that will move us to item number 6.
Good evening, Mayor Hardy and members of City Council. The owners of 4 acres of land located west of US 95, south of Spring Canyon Road, and north of Black Hills Drive in the El Dorado Valley have submitted a petition to annex their property into Boulder City so that they may develop the 4 acres for 2 office warehouse buildings. For the past several months, as the council knows, staff has followed the steps for annexation as required by state law, including preparing an annexation report, which has been presented to the council, and holding a required public hearing on the potential annexation. Besides approving the annexation, Bill number 2067 also approves an annexation agreement between the property owners and the city that limits city obligations to extend services beyond the water line, which already exists adjacent to the property, and emergency services, which the city currently provides to the unincorporated property today through our mutual aid agreements with the county. If approved, the annexation would be effective on November 6th of 2024. And besides myself, as staff to answer questions, Mr. Winston, the petitioner and one of the property owners, is also here to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions per se, but I like the fact that in all the agreements, we have solidified the fact that any extension of the utilities other than the water line that's there is entirely up to the responsibility and cost of the potential annexed landowners, and even still dependent. I haven't received an update, and I don't know it's pertinent to our conversation today about the health district's approval of a septic system, which is entirely on them, and that annexing that area has been an issue of sensitive and delicate navigation for the city, and it's important that we remember that we're securing our borders, we're having local control over the land that's adjacent to us, and I think that this annexation report has been done well, and the agreement is well drafted, and I appreciate all the work that's been done, and I think it's a good plan going forward.
Any other comments? If not, I would accept a motion. And
Have a public hearing, Mayor? No?
No, we already did the public hearing.
Oh,
Move to approve bill number 2067.
with all the stipulations
approving
that
an
are in
annexation.
our packet.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. That brings us to number 7, regular business.
Yes. Item number 7, the Teamsters Local Number 14 Fire Captain's bargaining agreement requires updates to clarify the benefits for temporary assignment of the administrative fire captain position due to different work schedules. City staff and the union are in agreement regarding these proposed changes. In order to amend the agreement, it does require a public hearing per state law. Staff is seeking council approval of resolution number 7855.
So before we go any further, I think Councilman Walton would like to make a disclosure.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to disclose pursuant to NRS 281A that my son Nigel Walton is a fire captain for the Boulder City Fire Department. And this matter seeks approval of the collective bargaining agreement for the fire captain's bargaining unit, of which he is a member. And because this is a relationship under Nevada ethics law that would likely impact the judgment of a reasonable person in my situation, I will be abstaining on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. We would then open a public hearing if there are no questions from the city manager at this point. So we open the public hearing. Anyone who would like to come forward and have input as to what they feel should be done with the collective bargaining agreement as proposed. And if you're online, 702-589-9629. Is there anyone on the phone line right now?
Not yet. I'm going to give it a few seconds.
702-589-9629. And again, anyone in the council chambers willing to come forward and say anything, you're welcome to do that. And the phone in line, 702-589-9629. We'll wait just a few minutes, or we have waited. So we will close the public hearing, and on resolution number 7855, do I have a motion?
I move to approve resolution 7855.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of approving resolution number 7855 say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. It is unanimous. Thank you. And we will move to item 8.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Cynthia Sneed, your Finance Director. Item number 8 tonight is brought to you on behalf of the Clark County. They are seeking support to levy a proposed 911 fee surcharge. The Board of Commissioners is contemplating levying this proposed fee, and it's a surcharge that would be assessed on all phone service lines. And they're seeking support from the various entities within the county that have a dispatch function. And the county will be responsible for implementing and administering the program. They require an advisory committee. The city will have representation on that advisory committee. And they have a 5-year master plan that has to be renewed every year. And they would collect this fee and then administer the proceeds based on what the committee recommends.
And this will benefit Boulder City in what way?
Potentially, it will depends on how they decide to distribute the funds, but potentially we could benefit by some equipment for the 911, for the dispatch center, and some software, those kinds of things.
So the theory is that it will help everybody respond to emergencies in a more efficient way, which will affect all of us in southern Nevada.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? So, hearing that, do I have a motion on Resolution 7856?
I'll move to approve Resolution 7857. I'm sorry, 7856.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion has passed unanimously. Thank you, and we'll move to number 9. Madam City Attorney.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is Resolution 7857. This would approve Amendment Number 3 to the One Nevada Agreement on the allocation of opioid recoveries to identify additional defendants. As you know, we are a party to the One Nevada Agreement on the allocation of opioid recoveries, which is a partnership with ourselves and the State Attorney General, as well as the other jurisdictions in Southern Nevada who are in litigation with the various opioid manufacturers and distributors that have contributed to the opioid epidemic affecting our nation. This agreement allows the Attorney General to negotiate on our behalf and settle some of these cases to maximize the settlement revenue for the city and the state. This amendment simply identifies additional defendants that we can potentially go after for the opioid epidemic litigation.
Questions? I would accept a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve Resolution 7857.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. It is passed unanimously. Thank you. And that brings us to item number 10. Mr. Stubitz.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Item number 10 before you is the appointment of a voting delegate and an alternate from city staff to participate in the Nevada Rural Electric Association annual meeting of the members. In December of last year, City Council approved general membership in the Nevada Rural Electric Association. The association was founded in 1974 to represent the collective interests of consumer-owned utilities in Nevada. The association collaborates with national and regional affiliates and provides a forum within which rural utilities like ours communicate and work together to achieve mutually beneficial goals. The association's purpose is to power communities with safe, reliable, and affordable electricity and empower consumers to improve the quality of their lives. And the city staff recommends the voting delegate to be the utilities director, myself, and the alternate to be the utility engineer.
Any questions, comments? I would accept a motion to do as accepted, as suggested.
I'll make a motion to, do I need to say the utility director?
Yes.
Yes.
The utility director and his assistant.
Utility
Yes, the utility director as the designee and the utility engineer as the alternate.
That would be perfect. Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. And we will now move to the city manager's report.
Nothing unusual to report.
Thank you. And likewise, we'll move to 12 claims paid.
Nothing unusual to report.
Thank you. Any questions of the city manager on anything? We will move now. We'll open the second public comment at this time. Anybody who would like to come forward and talk about anything for up to 3 minutes is welcome to do so. Call in 702-589-9629. Anyone here in chambers is welcome to come forward, state your name and what you would like us to hear about anything in particular. And call in, we don't have anyone on the line yet. 702-589-9629. Seven oh two 589-9629. See no one on the line. Do we have?
Public comment?
Good evening again. For the record, Fred Volz. Public health and safety are primary responsibilities of elected city councils. The enormous spike, almost 47% from 2022 to 2023, in known animal problems should set off alarm bells that substantive action needs to be taken by this council and city management. Sound reform actions derive from input given by subject matter experts dealing with the daily problems. Boulder City is quick to hire consultants such as Stantec and SCA, both of whom did poor, inaccurate work for high prices. This council hired a headhunter to locate permanent city manager candidates without even trying to accomplish this task with existing human resources staff. The good news, however, is that you have a subject matter expert on animal protection issues already on staff, but whom you have consciously chosen to ignore and refuse to invite to one of your meetings, thereby securing her expertise on what Boulder City needs to protect its human and animal populations. Who wouldn't want expertise applied to the abject realities this community faces? Since previous outlines of unresolved problems have been met with no action, repetition is necessary. Boulder City has no enforceable leash law, as does every other Clark County jurisdiction. Boulder City has failed to substantially limit animal breeding when a crisis exists of unwanted animals throughout Clark County. No clear guidance exists to minimize unwanted animals. Our ordinances and penalties concerning animal abuse, abandonment, exploitation, and running at large need far greater criminal penalties attached as a deterrent to unnecessary and inhumane treatment of helpless creatures and protection of the human population. No movement has been made to fully fund the city shelter with food and cleaning supplies. We have no universal microchipping of pets, no ongoing low or no-cost spay-neuter clinics, and no ongoing trap-neuter release. When 20 people show up in T-shirts and request a statue be placed in a public park not designated for military memorials, you are only too happy to comply. When 20 people show up and request overdue help for our animal population, you ignore them. Kind of a double standard and dereliction of your public health and safety responsibilities, don't you think? And I would ask that these comments be added to the record verbatim. Thank you.
Any others on? I will close public comment and go to City Council's report.
I just want to say Worst Fest is coming up. I look forward to seeing everybody out there next weekend. Or is it this weekend? This weekend. Oh, it's here already. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody and having a great time. Everybody loves Worst Fest, I think, and it goes to a wonderful cause. So it's our Sunrise Rotary. So looking forward to that and hope to see everybody again. I'm repeating myself. Sorry. Thank you.
I also look forward to Worst Fest and then Art in the Park come October. Now that the season is changing, a whole lot of activities are coming to Boulder City and look forward to it.
Thank you.
You know, let's say Worst Fest one more time. And I'm sure maybe we'll say it even down here. No, you're going to abstain. Good. It's been enough. No, it hasn't. So here, the other thing that I want to say is I had a chance to go to the homecoming parade this last week and the homecoming game, but we won't talk about that. So at the parade, after the parade, I was talking to one of the moms, and this great young lady, was her daughter, was standing there waiting for us, and she noticed trash all over the ground at the park that someone had left, and she just began picking it up and running it to the garbage can without even being asked. And I just thought that was pretty amazing, and it kind of talks to Boulder City a little bit, and I would encourage all of us as residents here to take the initiative if we see it and we know that it's laying there and discarded. We might
learn from her to pick it up and get rid of it so that we are clean, green Boulder City.
Thank you.
A reminder to any of our residents who are contemplating changing their landscaping to more water smart landscaping, replacing turf. The Water Authority extended the increased rebate amount, which used to be $3, now it's $5 per square foot rebate for the first 10,000 square feet of turf that you remove, through projects requested through the end of 2024. So you don't have to have it complete by the end of this calendar year, at least requested. But remember, there are some conditions, and your grass has to be living when you make the request and the SNWA representative comes out to inspect your property. And there are some others that can be outlined through the SNWA website or the representative that comes out. But just don't turn off your grass now and kill it all and then ask them to come out, because you probably won't qualify for the rebate if you do that. So there's plenty of money for the rest of this calendar year to be requested for conversion if anybody's interested. That's the only update I have, Mayor.
Thank you. And I don't have anything important other than Jill and I learned a valuable lesson. We took an airplane trip to Reno, and those who are going to the airport anticipating parking in the original Terminal 1 probably ought to take extra time in getting there and understanding that the airport parking is in what, for lack of a better word, is in disarray, and going from one terminal to another is problematic. So just a heads up if you're doing any traveling. And that concludes our reports, and I will close the meeting. Meeting's adjourned.